Alright friends, welcome back to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. This YouTube channel is dedicated to helping you improve your skill, your field command at Bannerlord through the use of advanced tactics. Today it looks like we've got a battle against another huge Battanian force. This particular city has gone sort of back and forth in a tug-of-war. But Battanian represents a unique challenge for my army. And that's mostly because my own army strategy, tactical strategy for battles, hinges on the ability to fight the enemy at range. And of course Battania has outstanding range troops in Battanian Fiend Champs and their javelin throwers. So as usual, it looks like we're outnumbered almost 3-1 here. I'm going to recruit some last minute prisoners, do some upgrades. But again, Battania is difficult because they're firing at range. It makes it a very difficult battle for my army to overcome. I'm going to be running at 50% player damage here. I haven't gotten the RTS mod, the mod that allows you to sort of fly like a helicopter over your troops to successfully work yet with the version of Bannerlord I'm playing, 1.27. But we'll see if we can use that in the future. In the near term, though, we're going to continue to run with less player damage so I can survive longer in battles and show you more tactics instead of just obviously having my character get dropped, by an unlucky shot arrow to the eyeball early in the fight, and then you're not going to learn a whole lot once the AI takes over. So this is kind of interesting. Even though they outnumber us here almost 3-1, they're taking a defensive stand so far up on that ridge. I'm not shocked lately. The computer AI has been doing some unique things. I don't know if that's new programming or what. But it's actually, in this case, superior strategy, because we're the ones that attacked in this instance. How the AI works is that we're the ones that are required to initiate combat here. In other words, Battania can just sit up on that ridge and wait for us to come to them. And since they have ranged units, right, that's a superior tactic. Now, even though they have more troops than us, realistically, they might be able just to charge us and in a coordinated attack sort of steamroll us. But look at them up there. That actually, in this case, is a superior strategy and represents an extremely difficult challenge for us. Right, we're going to be trying to fight uphill against a huge force that's heavily armed with archers, and we're outnumbered 3-1. So the first thing I want to do is continue sort of to whittle down their cavalry here. It'll be even harder to make an offensive attack on them if we're also fighting through the teeth of it looks like 150 cavalry. Battania has some of the worst cavalry in the game, but they also have some other units in here. I see some landing cavalry. But most importantly, you can only imagine how much difficulty this is going to be to try to attack uphill against a force that's also flanking you and harassing you with heavy cavalry. So try to whittle down this cavalry a little bit. And in my mind, I'm forming a strategy here. We're basically going to try to approach this Battanian force in a hurry, in a rush, from an angle where maybe their line of sight, in other words, their archers won't have the best shot, and we can sort of get set up on the left over there. That little ridge looks like a friendly spot for me to try to take a toehold here, and then make a concerted assault on the enemy. It's still going to be difficult, right? Because they're shooting downhill. Their troops will be running downhill. If you don't know how the game works from a game mechanic of physics standpoint. Troops move faster running downhill and obviously move slower going uphill. That means that our infantry marching uphill will do less damage and theirs will do more. Now also their archers, of course, being up higher, can shoot further. In fact, this whole time we're marching over, we're vulnerable here. So I actually have a couple cavalry wing out in the plain, not fighting. I mostly want them distracting the enemy. You see those horses just standing there. What I want them doing is just sort of taking some of the enemy's attention, right? I just put them into square formation. Now that'll protect them from cavalry, and it'll also reduce some of the damage that their archers rain down on us. Now again, a good tactic here by the enemy. They're bringing in cavalry to try to sort of slow our movement, try to harass us as we get into place. I've got the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th corps all set up on this lower ridge here, and I'm hoping that we can get set up before the enemy can get a bunch of ranged units raining down on us. You see the death is mostly in our favor at this point. That's mostly their cavalry sort of charging through our infantry and obviously getting their asses kicked. Now it's a very, very difficult tactic I'm pulling off here, strategy I'm pulling off here, as I make some really bad javelin throws. The danger, and of course, is that the enemy reacts quickly, gets these forces set up, and then starts raining death on us. Meanwhile, we have nowhere to retreat. You see the cavalry out there. That's my 3rd cavalry. They're doing a great job right now, just sort of providing a target for the enemy to be distracted by, and that's definitely helping a lot. Meanwhile, I'm dragging the 2nd cavalry, and I'm doing that sort of to harass the enemy cavalry that's trying to harass us, right? I have my 1st infantry set up right there at the bottom, and they're already in range to at least throw javelins and sort of harass any of the enemy that's nearby. Meanwhile, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th are all on that little plateau there. And the idea being that if this Battanian force comes over the ridge into our line of sight, they'll have to do so into this murderous, look at the fire. They'll have to cross over into our murderous ranged attack before they can set up. Meanwhile, I don't want them to set up. Okay, so here comes their infantry. This is a huge block of infantry. I mean, we're outnumbered 3 to 1, so their infantry, basically we're outnumbered every single possible way in this battle. But what I'm doing here is just dragging my cavalry through. I'm just trying to cause chaos with their infantry. Any of these archers that are close, any nobles that get the head in the way of my pole arm, off with their fucking heads. And, it's a screen of green death, mostly because the enemy, in fact, they just got set up. You can see up there on that ridge. Now we're in a bit of a struggle here. This is going to be a challenge. So what I want to do here is I want to try to drag cavalry right through these fucking archers. Because if these guys are allowed to just shoot unharassed, we're toast. They will just rain death on us from above, shooting farther, shooting harder, and we're fucked. Yeah, I was worried this might be the case too. The enemy's already getting reinforcements, and even worse, because we had to advance on the enemy is now right up on us. So we're gonna transition here and sort of make a feint retreat. We could continue trying to fight it out on this ridge, but I don't know if we'd be successful in this battle. So what I'm actually going to do is the 2nd Cavalry's been told to charge. My 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th divisions, and those are my important range divisions, I've told them to retreat to that ridge on the other side of this valley. Right, these guys are all moving over. Meanwhile, I have the 1st Infantry in there attacking. I just decided it's time for a sacrificial wave. This happens in war all the time. It happened in Napoleon in 1812 campaign when he's retreating from Russia. He sent in 2 units of his young guard, his elite reserve units, basically knowing for sure that they were going to be killed by the enemy to save the rest of his army. That's effectively what we're doing. You see the death spam. It's mostly allied, right? It's mostly guys from our army, and those guys will all get medals of honor for their wives after this battle, because what they're doing, of course, is they're buying time for the rest of us. See our guys retreating here. We're still under a murderous hail of darts, but the key is we didn't get completely enveloped there. We got most of our forces out, and even better, the enemy, now smelling blood in the water, so to speak, is now charging on us. Right? They're coming off the ridge. In real life, this happens too. People get kind of cocky and aggressive when they smell prey. I mean, human beings are animals too. When we sense weakness in the opposition, I'm going to hold fire here and wait for them to come up this ridge. In real life, this would happen as well. People would chase the people that were being sort of attacked, become the attackers. They think they can seize initiative here, and they're coming against us. Well, that's going to play right into our hands. Now, tactically, the next thing I'm doing is something you definitely want to try and experiment with in your own game. You see this ridge here, right in front of us? The enemy has to come over that, right into a murderous hail of darts to get to our forces. Meanwhile, their archers can't shoot. Their archers are down this little hillside. They have no line of sight, so they can't support the rest of their troops. So I've got my 6th, 8th, and 1st Infantry. And the 1st Infantry, by the way, is just a shattered form of its old self. Right? There's a handful of stragglers. These guys are all defending this ridge line. The enemy's pouring in now, right? They still outnumber us, but we have archer support raining across the valley. You can see all the darts from the javelins hammering them. Oops, hit my own guy, I do that a lot. Meanwhile, their archers are coming up, and they're just now starting to get to the ridge, and they are getting pounded by arrows. Right? It's still a difficult situation. We're still going to lose troops, right? They got Battanian Fiend champs. This is a fucking tough army. But they are now tactically at the disadvantage, right? I'm going to get reinforcements at some point. In fact, there they are. That was very timely of them. And the good news is now the reinforcements are closer to us, whereas in the previous attack up their hill, we were the ones marching right into the face of enemy reinforcements. We'll collect a big shield here. This is going to be a savage battle. You can see the enemy just seems endless on this ridge, and that's because they had something like 700 troops, right? They had a huge amount of troops. These guys are attacking my fucking 8th Corps. Get off. Now my 8th Corps, if you're not familiar with it, I can cover it in 30 seconds. It's basically very high-level friends, companions, family members. Look at the murderous archer spray there. I mean, those guys are getting absolutely obliterated, right? And try to imagine shooting if you're the enemy coming up into that withering fire from our archers, right? Again, they have to come over this ridge, and it's just murderous to do so. Right? We're actually now pushing into them. But here's another important point. I don't want to attack over their ridge, right? Because suddenly I'm the one without archer support. So we're going to pull back, right? You see my forces all retreating back. I've got to handle this cavalry on the side here. But the enemy is now the one again forced to come over the ridge into our murderous fire. You see all the darts and arrows and javelins pouring into their troops. Right? Meanwhile, again, their archers are just on the other side of that ridge. They have to come over that ridge and basically endanger themselves even to make an attempt to shoot us. God, this is a lot of troops. They just poured in like 500 infantry. So again, a concentrated attack. You'll see me do this a lot. I'm not running this battle quite as slow as I've ran some of the other ones. Hopefully the instructional videos help to explain people. That was a strange glitch. I just had it glitch out on me. Anyways, hopefully what I'm doing here is essentially a concentrated attack where 4 or 5 units all attack at once. In this case, it was the 7th, 6th, 8th Division, and then the remnant of the new archer reinforcements. And we're all attacking in melee at the same time. And look at the screen, right? Just a wave of death. Now at this stage they do have archers. God, these guys are fucking tough. These are like level 3 characters, tier 4 characters, and they're tough. The enemy at this stage has pushed up archers over the ridge, so now we need to make an aggressive assault on it. We're going to just have to plow into this because we're not going to win a ranged battle without a tactical advantage. Right? So I'm marching behind my troops here, and we're just going to aggressively take it to the enemy here. Again, finishing a thought from a couple minutes ago, this is the 8th Corps in action. These are some of the most elite troops that you can have in the game. A lot of these troops are family members that are level 40 or 45, some are even 50, and these guys are fucking savages when it comes to combat. Like a lot of them have 300 plus athletics, 300 plus skill in a weapon, and ranged weapons. Right? They have good javelin skills, and of course top tier armor. We got plenty of money. We ran down to the Saxon 5th Avenue and got some savage, expensive designer armor. So still Battanian Fiend champs chasing after us. It seems like the enemy has more Battanian Fiend champs than us. Another huge infantry wave here. This feels like an epic battle. But again, I think at this stage, without actually knowing, I would bet we've killed 3 or 4, maybe even 5 of them for every one we lost. Look at the screen, like green, green, green. Get pushed back a little bit, but we just had a nice infantry block pour in. Pushing up aggressively here. One of the keys to this tactical approach, right, holding this ridge line, is that any time that they sort of make a puncture point into our defenses, you attack highly aggressively. You get your units sent up in there, even at the cost, right? Even if you're gonna suffer losses. You can see their archers are 130, 140 units away. Right? A lot of their archer reinforcements aren't close enough to help. In this case, I do this sort of almost by second nature. I just sent that cavalry unit in an engage motion, basically moving forward, either F1, F4, or in some cases I'll physically point the cavalry where I want them to go. And what that does is it basically shoves the enemy back, right? It pushes their archers, pushes their cavalry, our cavalry, right into their archers. They get interrupted. They pull their swords out, right? And anytime the enemy has their swords out instead of their arrows, their archers are in trouble. Right? Meanwhile, right behind them, right behind that cavalry, I marched the 6th and the 8th Division, right? Our 2 best remaining infantry corps. and it was highly effective. Right? Those archers were just immolated. The cavalry pushed through, suffered some losses, but look at now our archers. Our archers are totally unharassed back there, just raining death. Right? Now again, I mentioned this before, we're going to now pull our troops back. I do not want our troops getting overextended from our support, from our archery support here, right? We want our troops concentrated, and we want the enemy divided, right? This goes back to Caesar, and literally medieval warfare, divide and conquer, right? Suffering some losses here on the pullback, that's sort of inevitable. If your troops move quickly, like mine do, and they have some high combat skill, they're not just fleeing, they don't look like troops that are routing. Look at that guy, he's holding up his shield and sort of backing up. You know, in warfare they would call that basically a tactical retreat. There's a difference between a rout and a retreat. In warfare, a rout is where you guys fucking throw your weapons down. They say that they're taking the ball and going home, they're not going to play anymore. Whereas a retreat is usually a tactical approach, right? It's a measured, organized retreat back, where you're effectively fighting the enemy while still moving back, right? Those are very different things. You never want to be routing. If you're routing, you're fucked. You want the enemy routing, but you may have to retreat sometimes, right? Even though it's a retreat, again, keep an eye on that screen in the upper right. It's not many allied deaths, right? The enemy's getting their fucking ass kicked here, even though they're the ones being the aggressor. Right? They're coming over that ridge, they're being mauled by our archers. I'm savaging with my axe here, right? Guys' body parts are flying all over the place. And they just got their absolutely ass handed to them. Now, if you notice what's happening here, the enemy is either reforming or retreating, right? We're going to make them pay the price. So now we're getting aggressive. But this needs to be a cautious approach. You don't just barrel in thinking that you won and we're going to just take over. In fact, seeing that infantry wave, there's another huge infantry wave coming. Again, we reform. You want to be disciplined with your army. You don't want to just fly in and do exactly what the enemy did about 10 minutes ago, where they felt like they had the initiative, they smelt blood, and they poured in and got wasted. You want to be continually disciplined with your tactical approach. So we're letting the enemy come to us. It's a fucking screen of green. Again, they're holding their shields up. I've talked about this in other videos. That means they're not routing. That's the best communication data point I can tell you, that the enemy still wants to fight. Because when the enemy starts to rout, they will drop their shields, turn, and start running the other way without any care in the world, and you'll be able just to cut them down. And the difference is very simple. When they are holding their shields up like this, that means you'd better prepare for another attack, right? You could see them coming in again for a concentrated attack. This huge Battanian force probably has a lot of nobles and high-level lords in it itself. So again, we're sort of playing this middle ground here. We're letting the enemy come over that ridge. I mean, look how fucking many there are. That looks like 700 or 800 troops in there. You know, but again, we're going to concentrate firepower, continue to hammer them with our archers, and continue just the same tactical strategy. Let them come to us. Let them be the ones that are getting slaughtered. So you can see now the angle of our attack on this group has changed. So I'm actually pulling archers here over to the right flank. You can see because of the elevation, they'll be able to shoot down into this valley, and they'll be able to shoot the enemy here on the flank. Right? Now, some of those guys are actually right up in the front of battle. That's fine. Right? If we lose a few guys doing a formational change, the short-term loss will be greatly offset by the long-term benefit. And just look at this screen. Right? It is just absolute freedom. And there's one more reason for that. You know, and I talk about this in most videos where it's a rout like this. And I don't mean rout because the enemy's running. I just mean the results of a rout. This has been a massacre today. When you have your tier 4, tier 5 troops that are still alive because you fucked the enemy up so badly in the beginning, at this stage of the battle, after the 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe wave of reinforcements by the enemy, you have your elite troops, or at least some of your elite troops, still alive. The enemy, meanwhile, is sending in weak troops. It's sending in its tier 3s. It's starting to get sort of down the skill tier tranche level, and you have an advantage because of that, right? I have level 5 archers now going hand-to-hand with level 3 Battanian warriors. This is obviously going to result in a massacre for our side. The enemy's kind of hemmed in here. I actually see reinforcements coming in again way across the valley, but because we have archer support and we're gaining momentum on that left flank, we're pushing in here, right? These guys on this side are being hammered with arrows. I've got archers charging now. The infantry's barreling in. When you play this game enough, you will start to sense the precise moment that you should make an aggressive charge, right? And totally try to demoralize and destroy your enemy. That moment was a few seconds ago, and it continues, right? We're shoving in here. We're basically going to make this enemy either all dead, or we're going to try to make them run. Right? Now they're down to peasants and guys with pitchforks. We charge. Axe is not as fast as mine goes. I give them credit for fighting it all the way out. I mean, they've got their blacksmiths running up here with their cudgels. But all they're going to end up doing is add to our kill count. I got more reinforcements pouring over the ridge. You know, they're making a valiant effort here at the end of the battle. We're still outnumbered, so they're making some kills. But none of that's going to matter. At this stage, I've got elite troops that are right over this hilltop. They're going to pour in, and this battle is over. Now, I hate admitting mistakes. I hate admitting that I made a mistake, but sometimes admitting mistakes sort of reinforces it to your brain that you can make improvements in your own game. In that battle, it looks like my forces weren't quite concentrated enough, and the enemy had so many troops there that I should have continued playing sort of the ridge game that I was playing the first 4 or 5 stages of this battle. I lost probably 80% of my main wave there, coming down over that hill, trying to basically finish the enemy off, and I underestimated the resolve of this army. I mean, this fucking army is totally dead, but these guys are fighting like the Japanese did in Okinawa. They're just not giving up. These guys are going to fight down to the last fucking guy, take as many of us with them as they can. And, you know, it's just an artificial intelligence, but in real life, you'd be like tipping your cap to these enemies, right? These guys are fighting as if their lives depended on it. So in reality, tactical mistake there. It's one that's going to be, you know, overridden in this battle by the 5 or 6 tactical advantages that we pursued and took full advantage of. But again, holy shit, there's still Battanian Fianchamps left. In that instance, I should have waited just a little bit longer, made sure my forces were fully concentrated before we made that final salvo, and then poured down this valley. Again, in a battle at this stage where we were winning so decisively, that's a mistake we're going to be able to overcome, but it's nevertheless a mistake. And again, we don't view mistakes as some kind of depressing, you know, demoralizing thing. If you win the battle and you make mistakes, what it's called an opportunity to get better at field command. Right? I can refine my own command, and I am constantly refining my own command on a regular basis. So I know a lot of people have expressed the desire to see me take on Battanian Fianchamps, Battanians in a really difficult situation. I can't imagine that I'll encounter a much more difficult situation in the game than that, where you have 600 or 700 Battanian Fianchamps entrenched up a steep hillside and not willing to fight you, even though they outnumber us 3 to 1. And you can see the battle results are decisive, right? With the loss of some 600 men, we destroyed 3,000 despite being outnumbered 3 to 1. So thanks for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see you fine folks next time.